Hello, class. Hope your week is going well. You may be wondering why, for a video on professionalism, I would be coming to you from my backroom office at home, where you can see my elliptical machine. It's a Bowflex Max Trainer, mind you. My rack of shoes, my wife's winter coat, me in a Patriots t-shirt, unshaven. What's that all about? It's supposed to be a video on professionalism. Well, it's really to differentiate between what it looks like to be professional, like my first video where I was wearing a jacket, shirt, and tie, and maybe what doesn't look professional. And so as we dive into this, we will go a little bit further. So professionalism is the standard. So I want you to stop for a second, and if you have a notebook, if you have one of those iPads and one of those I don't know what the plural of stylus is. Is it styli? Style? But if you have a stylus, there we go. Or if you're using a Kindle Fire or whatever, regardless, I want you to just take a minute and write down the word professionalism, put a colon there, and I want you to define it for yourself. Not that easy to do, is it? So your last assignment for this class is actually going to be to write a 2-page personal philosophy on what professionalism is. And really at the heart of it is the answer to this question. You are going to define professionalism for yourself. Again, not the easiest thing to do, but a good exercise. And we can look at the definition of professionalism, right? And speaking of which, that's my dog. Baba, come over here. Come over here. Join the class. My dog Cadence does not like it when the door is closed, and so she will usually take it upon herself to invade the course. So say hi to the class, Cadence. This is the Bright Spot Therapy dog. She's a very sweet girl. So professionalism defined, and I forget where I got this definition, the competence or skill expected of professionalism. The key to quality and efficiency is professionalism, the practicing of an activity, especially by a sport, by professional rather than amateur players, or the trend toward professionalism. What do you think? I like this definition a lot better. Professionalism is not the job you do, it's how you do the job. So why is professionalism important at the work site? Well, it creates boundaries, and with work, it's important to have effective boundaries. It creates an atmosphere of improvement, this sense of responsibility. It gives you the means to mitigate conflicts and a way to increase job satisfaction, and it provides an avenue for personal growth. I would argue it also provides a route to professional growth. So David Maister, who is someone who you will see that you have a number of different articles by on topics related to professionalism. It's true. Wrote, professionalism is not a label you give yourself. It's a description you hope others will apply to you. So let's just take a moment and think about that, right? I've met a lot of people who say, well, I'm a professional. And that's great. But that's like saying, I'm a team player, or I have strong leadership. It's one thing to say it. It's another thing for it to be in evidence. And one of the ways it can be in evidence is in how people describe you. And so if they describe you as someone who's really a professional, someone who's accountable, someone who's can be relied upon, that means so much more than if you say it. And so that's a point we're going to hammer today. It's kind of like on your resume when you say, oh, I'm a team player. It's so much more effective if you can point to the athletic team you're on or the team at work that you're on, Or if you say I've got great leadership, you can instead point to the fact that you were named the captain of your team, or the third key at the retail store you work at, or a supervisor at a particular company. That's going to go a lot further than you saying it yourself. So the major themes that emerge from over 30 years of David Maister's work are that the keys to success for individuals and for institutions are the three P's: passion, people, and principles. Now, you've been selected to be a part of a great tradition by being a part of Elms College. And I am a firm believer that we all have an interest in the perception of graduates of Elms College being valuable. And so you have an interest because it will help advance your career. I'm not saying that you're a graduate from Elms College is in the same vein as saying you're a Harvard or Yale graduate, but I think it's pretty close. No, but Elms College does have a very strong academic reputation. And so if you go to Bay State and you say, I'm a nursing graduate from Elms College, you have their attention. That's not to say that they won't consider candidates from other schools, but they recognize that Elms College is the best school in the region for nursing. Similarly, they know that being a student at Elms College, you get inundated with or immersed rather, with the Catholic teachings of the Sisters of St. Joseph and their values and their ethical expectations. And that is something that in a business has a certain amount of value. And so alumni of the college have an interest in your success because your success adds to the value of an Elms College degree in the value of the degree that they hold. So it's all interconnected. It's almost like a stock on the stock exchange. So I always like to do a little exercise with my work study students. I call it the store counter exercise. And I always say that if you walk into a store, and this happens to be the bookstore at Elms College, if you are a remote student, this may be the first time you've ever seen it. It's through Follett. I can't say that there's anything particularly exciting. It is where I get my collection of bucket hats and my t-shirts and things like that, and the occasional sweatshirt or jacket. But if you were to walk in there, what would you expect from the person on the other side of the counter? How would you want them to act? You'd probably want them to acknowledge that you were there, make eye contact, welcome you, maybe smile, ask if they could be of assistance, ask if they could help you. But think about that. What are they doing? How do they engage with you? How are they dressed? What is their deportment? Are they looking at their phone, have one of those earbuds in and are watching a video, glancing at you with some irritation that you're interrupting their binge watching of Friends? Or are they welcoming you with their eyes, smiling and saying, welcome to the Elms College bookstore. How can I help you? So you may be the first person, the first graduate from Elms College that someone meets. And just think about what that first impression will mean. Again, first impressions matter. And organizations grow or contract in part by their reputation. And so everything you do for the organization you go to work for is going to matter. It's going to count. And you can help grow your organization and its reputation, or you can contribute to its decline. Right now, I'm thinking of there was an accounting firm that was responsible for auditing Enron. And when Enron collapsed because of corporate malfeasance, that accounting firm ended up having to merge with another one because they had collapsed. Think about the companies in the last year or so, and it's been a bit of a rough year, that have had to close or declare Chapter 7. Maybe it's a store that used to have a national footprint and now it's going out of business. Elms College, we want to be seen as a place that produces great professionalism. And deportment is the difference between a visitor feeling they can ask that question or that you would rather that they leave. So good deportment is made up of open body language, being approachable, engaging with a smile and eye contact, enthusiasm, empathy, dressing professionally, being at work and present in the moment, being on time so you're not harried and stressed and appear unapproachable, frazzled even. But it's so much more than that, you know? It's about being accountable. It's about being responsible. If someone gives you an assignment, can they count on you getting it done on time and correctly? And of it being in a level and a quality that is going to serve its purpose. So what do you want to get out of this first job? Is it just a paycheck? Maybe it's a letter of recommendation. Maybe we're doing some game theory and we're strategically using this position to set up the next 3 moves we're going to make career-wise. Maybe you're getting experience being able to work on some things that you can use to tell great stories when they ask you a tough interview question, something that's related to the kind of question that requires STAR answers, right? STAR answers, which stands for situation, task, action, and result. And so what was the situation? What was your role in that situation? The task. The situation would also be the problem statement, either not necessarily something that's gone horribly wrong. It could be an opportunity, but what is the problem we're trying to solve? The task, your role in that situation. The action, what did you do? What approach did you take? What steps did you unfold? And then the result. What was the outcome? How'd it go? Obviously, we want to tell the stories primarily that have a strong outcome, that make us look good. Although, sometimes one of the great questions you can ask someone is, tell me about a time when you failed. Because in that lesson is an opportunity to show what you've learned from that failure. Why sometimes does a head coach who's been fired get a new job right away? Well, he has invaluable experience and knows more the second time around than he did the first time around. Again, that ties back to the experience. Think about goals in your major that could be connected to either an internship, a work study job, or that first job. Where are the opportunities for mentoring? If you impress someone at your first company, would they be willing to take you on as a mentor? And some people have mentors for 20, 30 years, go to their funeral and everything. Can you develop that type of relationship by impressing someone enough? How can you build your network? Connect with them on LinkedIn, but maintain contact with them so that as your career progresses and hopefully as their careers progress, you're able to serve each other as mutually beneficial parts of that same network. What transferable skills can you pick up from this job that you can then apply to the next job? What kind of intrinsic motivation can you develop even when you have an entry-level position that you're not particularly thrilled or excited about? How can you create from that a well of motivation that is going to drive you throughout your career, even when things get tedious or dry? What opportunities can come from being an outstanding performer? And within that, though, I think you have to make sure that you remain genuine and authentic to who you are in what you believe in, what your principles are. Because once you start running counter to that's when things start falling apart. And so that's why it's also important to be aligned with the values and ethics of the organization that you're a part of. And that doesn't just mean meeting up to their standards, but them meeting up to yours. I think you have to be genuine and authentic as a professional. I think that's really important. Otherwise, you're really just being plastic. And I think most, that's my dog shaking. I think most people can see through that. So I know what you're thinking. This isn't me. This is really a picture of Stephen Covey, but you're thinking that's the same picture. He wrote the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I must have read that almost 20 years ago. And yet it's the lessons in that work I really do believe in, and they have served me well. And I think when you are able to apply those, you can get a lot out of them. So, and those include being proactive, right? So don't sit around and wait for it, but actually be proactive, go make it happen, take the initiative, begin with the end in mind. What's the goal, right? That's why I wanted you to reverse engineer somebody else's LinkedIn job and figure out how they got there from where they were. Begin with the end in mind and figure out how you're going to get there. Put first things first. Think win-win. We want to have those. So put first things first, you have to know how to prioritize and realize what's most important. There's a great exercise that you can do, the 4 quadrants, right? And maybe I will include that as a bonus exercise here. It's where you break all the things that you need to get done in a square. And in the upper left quadrant, you put things that are urgent and important. And in the upper right-hand quadrant, which is quadrant 2, you put those things that are important but not urgent. And then in the lower left-hand quadrant, you put those things that are urgent but not important. And in the fourth quadrant, you put in the things that are neither urgent nor important. Now, if you're spending all your time in quadrant 4, which is not urgent and not important, you're probably not putting first things first. You're probably not prioritizing. You really want to be in quadrant 1, which is those things that are urgent and important. That's not to say that those things that are not urgent but are important, you do want to spend a good deal of your time there. But to the greatest extent possible, you want to be where the urgency and the importance is. So you also want to think win-win, which is to say, there are a lot of business leaders who will say that in any negotiation, at the end of it, you want both parties to be happy with the end result, that's mutually beneficial. That's the way that you don't just win this round, but you create a relationship that over time is going to continue to be mutually beneficial, mutually supportive. If we both win, we both have skin in this game, we both have an interest in the continuing success of this partnership. And that's important. We want to seek first to understand and then to be understood. And so rather than when we're talking with someone, trying to argue over, interrupt them, and make sure they understand where we're coming from and what our point is, the value, Covey tells us, is in first trying to understand where the other person is coming from. Because once we understand their perspective, we're going to have a much easier time finding mutual common ground, which allows us to find opportunities to synergize, to be better together than separately. And then finally, there's part 7, which is sharpening the saw, which is to say that he gives the example that if you are working in lumber and you're in management, you're always concerned with, okay, we got to chop down more trees, we got to cut more wood, got to cut that wood, got to get it to the mill. But if you just continue emphasizing that and never stop to actually sharpen the saws, you're going to be less and less productive, right? And so what's going to end up happening is you're going to cut less wood. You're going to put more energy into cutting less and less wood until you finally stop and sharpen the saw. And so, wait for it. In this analogy, you're the saw. And so you have to find ways to rejuvenate yourself. You have to find ways to expand your own knowledge to remain sharp. That's why I'm doing a online training this upcoming week. I'm learning how to be a strength coach. You've probably heard of Gallup's Clifton Strength Finders. And so I'm going to be immersing myself in that for 2 days. So we'll see we'll see what I learned from that. So a final word on Covey. I always thought he was great. He actually tragically died in 2012. He actually fell off his bicycle and suffered a head injury. So he will not be coming out with a sequel. Now, habit 1, being proactive. He talks about also a circle of control, a circle of influence, and a circle of concern. Circle of concern is the things that we're worried about that we don't have any control over. And if you put all your energy here, you're going to be just depleting yourself without any results. But if you focus on your circle of control, the things you actually can control, you can expand your circle of control into a circle of influence and actually impact your circles of concern. All right, that sounds a little new agey. Maybe I should light a couple votive candles. But I do believe it's true. I do. And so I think in those first jobs, if we choose to be proactive and do some of the things that I had talked about, it can go a long way. And we can distinguish ourselves and be on everyone's radar and shortlist for opportunities for advancement. So, and we talked about beginning with the end in mind. Where do you ultimately want to be in this career? And can we plan out your moves in advance? Strategically selecting the positions we're going to go into, the experience that we gain in order to compete for those positions we ultimately want. Right. So I have given you a summary of the 7 habits of highly effective people in the list of readings for this week. Yay! There's yay again, making a dramatic comeback. I've also given you the competency for a career-ready workforce overview. These are the 8 competencies that employers have told us they value the most. They may not be the ones you would have expected, but included in there are definitions for each of these. Finally, when it comes to your reputation, again, I want to bring it back to professionalism is really about how others define you. It's not about necessarily what you think of yourself and what you tell others about yourself. It's about how others define you. And so that's really important. So I want you to give some thought. What do you want your brand to be? Not just on your resume, not just on your cover letter, not just in your interview, but in your job when you get out there. What do you want to be known for by those you work with or work for? And how can you be conscious about creating a standard for yourself that is going to be compelling so that you can continue to be a part of the amazing Elms College tradition of professionalism, but also, more importantly, your own, so that you feel good about all that you have to represent. So I look forward to seeing your thoughts on that. And I hope you've enjoyed this course. I've enjoyed having you in this course. Thank you for putting up with my somewhat bizarre sense of humor. And I hope this semester has been great for you. And if you're graduating, I look forward to seeing you at commencement. Or seeing your name in the graduation list. Please remember to complete your first destination survey. If you are not graduating, I hope you have a great summer break. And I hope that you don't miss an opportunity to leverage this summer so that you can add value to your experience. So that when you do graduate, you have yet another meaningful, valuable experience on your resume that you can point to. It could be a part-time job you've strategically chosen to add value down the road, get you some experience in the field, not just accepting a job at Dunkin' Donuts, not that there's anything wrong with that, or a job at Starbucks. Again, baristas are some of the most important people in my life, but something that you can point to on your resume and say, that's where I got some experience. That's where I was able to use some of what I learned in class for this job. Maybe it's an internship over the summer, paid, unpaid, for academic credit, without academic credit. Maybe it's some type of an experience. Maybe you are volunteering. Maybe you commit to some sort of organization and try to save the world a little bit in your own corner or someone else's corner of the world. But do think about, what you can be doing to add value. And I'm not saying you shouldn't go to the beach. If you do, don't forget the sunscreen so you can avoid having a giant hole in your head like I do from my Mohs surgery from when I got a touch of skin cancer on there. Definitely wear this strong SPF sunscreen, but think about ways that you can add value in addition to that. And thank you again.